Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Every day you tune in, you know it's another great episode of the Great Debaters Contest. This is the Kakamega edition, and I am Austin Nyumbok.
I am Mariam Bishar, and today we have Archbishop Njenga girls versus Nambale boys. Is poverty the leading cause of insecurity in Africa? They're ready to tackle this motion. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Isn't it strange that princesses and kings and clones that caper in soda strings and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? Each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mass, a book of rules, and each must make his or her life either a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Binzari Patience from Archbishop Njenga Girls. Today I stand here vibrant and ready to propose the motion that states poverty is the leading cause of insecurity in Africa. First, I'll become the gentle lady and define to you the terms. The first term is poverty. What is poverty? Poverty, in its extreme state, is destitution and insecurity. Insecurity is the lack of uncertainty. It's the state of being subject to danger or vulnerability. Now the relationship between the insecurity and poverty. Let's do the math. In countries that have high rate of poverty, there is a high level of insecurity. Do you concur with me? According to the state newspaper of The Star, on March 14th, 2016, Cote d'Ivoire, heavily armed gunmen fire at popular Ivory Coast beach resort, Grand Bassin, claiming the lives of 18 people. Isn't that insecurity? And poverty, Africa is the poorest continent on earth. By a long shot, with exception of only 3 countries, 28 of the poorest countries are in Africa. Just to mention but a few, we have Zimbabwe, Liberia, and Ethiopia. My first point, poverty causes unnecessary migration from rural to urban centers, where these people from the rural places become unemployed. And this, due to that, they opt to engage in crimes. For example, child trafficking and robbery. Second is the influence from friends. What do you do when your friend always takes you for a party with his money? Actually, you'll become really uncomfortable. So, you'll end up asking for the ideas, and the ideas will turn up to be really tragic. So, this leads to deaths, since you'll also want to climb up that social ladder. So, overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is the protection of fundamental rights, the right of human dignity and a decent life. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to make your opening statements.
A bench of judges, ladies and gentlemen, colleague debaters, good evening. Before you is Odor Nixon from Nambale Boys High School, here to oppose the motion that goes, poverty is the leading cause of insecurity in Africa. To start by explaining to you some of the most important words in this motion, poverty, the state of having little money, insecurity, not safe or protected. For us on our side, we acknowledge that indeed poverty leads to insecurity. Yeah, we don't decline it, we accept it, but it is not poverty alone that is leading to insecurity, but we have some other factors that are leading to insecurity. To my first point, it is terrorism. Actually, of recent years, Africa as a continent have been facing this problem of terrorism, whereby countries have been terrorized. Take for example in Kenya, what happened to Garissa University? Can you please tell me how was that related to poverty? Because these were just but students learning. all of a sudden, terrorists come and terrorize them, leading to the death of 147 students who could even come up to be doctors, who could even come up to be teachers, who could actually help this country. Also, don't just look at Kenya only. If you feel like looking at your country is not good enough to you, let us look at our neighbors. Let us look at our neighbor Somalia. Somalia is actually facing the problem of insecurity. In fact, it's the most insecure country in Africa. And this is not because Somalia is the poorest country in Africa. You can agree with me on that. But it is because of the terrorists. And these terrorists are actually Al-Shabaabs. So, if you are just there with your own mind, imagine those people in Somalia, how they are suffering. My friends, my fellow debaters, if you have ever watched them, if you have ever watched those people, how they do suffer, then you can agree with me that indeed terrorism is also causing insecurity, but not just looking at poverty alone. Also, another thing that is leading to this poverty is ideological differences from political leaders. How does this come about? These political leaders, when we go to election, indeed they disagree on the result. No one is accepted to be defeated. And as a result, since to them they are not satisfied, they bring their confusion, they bring their lack of understanding that in every competition there is a winner and the loser. In Uganda, when there was a problem between Yoweri Museveni and Kizza Besigye, in Gambia, what happened there, while there was a problem between Adama Barrow and Yahya Jammeh, whereby people are dying. Thank you very much for listening.
Cross-examinations now. Ladies, you have 3 minutes.
You can't fall if you don't climb. But there is no joy in living your whole life on the ground. Lycetius Stella from Archbishop Njenga Girls proposing the motion that goes, poverty is the leading cause of insecurity in Africa. I disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to death your right to say it. Take it in this perspective. What causes poverty? It is intellectual poverty. What is intellectual poverty? It is the inability of a person to gauge choices. What drives a person into terrorism? I am poor, I don't have money, and then somebody else approaches me, promises to give me a lot of money, only if I join his group to terrorize people, to kill people, and I don't want to continue staying in that poverty that I'm in. I will opt for terrorism as the option. But what has driven me to terrorism? It is the poverty that I'm going through. Poor people are easily abused by the rich to cause insecurity. You find that you are poor, you don't have anything to eat, and then a leader comes and offers you 10,000 shillings to go and kill somebody. Will you refuse? We can't live on an empty stomach. You will opt for the unexpected, only for you to continue with surviving. And due to poverty, parents are unable to take their children to school. And as we know, education is the key to success. Without education, we cannot acquire the white-collar jobs. And in school, what is required? Uniform is required, books are required, stationery is required, shopping, and all of you. If your parent has tried up and down to scratch his back, but he cannot even raise money to buy you uniform, what will you opt for? As a child, as you sit at home, and if an idle mind is the devil's workshop, you'll be easily influenced to do the unexpected. You'll be easily influenced to join these gangster groups, to continue causing crime in order to get your family out of the poverty that you're going through. And from the Bogan Project, on 7th November 2017, it is said that poverty is the leading cause of insecurity in Nigeria. And this is truly to say that when a person is poor, whether you know what you're going to do will cause a negative effect to the other, you'll opt for it only for your safety. Because as we know, you can't stand there, look at your children as they suffer. They're hungry. They don't have anything to put onto their mouths. And this thing comes through. With this, where are we heading to? To the abyss of poverty. That due to this, we will live in fear of insecurity. And as we know, for the poor, any choice is a gift with two faces.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll hear your rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
Just to disagree on what the second proposer who has just left the stage, he has clearly said that we have some individuals. For instance, he said that you get a child is idle and maybe is enticed by someone to join and cause havoc. Who are these people who are enticing this child to get into havoc? This means that this particular person is rich. And you cannot base your facts and tell us that poverty is a leading cause to insecurity. But based on argument and based on our definition of the word poverty, and also to relate it to the UN's definition of extreme poverty, that is the ability of a person to depend on less than $1 a day. This is considered to be extreme poverty. In such a way, you cannot have people armed with guns, as their first proposer said in relation to the motion, that you may get people armed with guns. How can you be poor and get armed with guns, and yet you don't have resources? This means that you are not poor, but you have resources, okay? As I want also to add on what has been said, to consider the imbalance in development in relation to insecurity. For instance, I want to paraphrase my example from Nigeria. The debater has just left the stage, said that there is poverty in Nigeria. But I want to bring to attention that Nigeria is one of the countries that produce oil. And this country has a lot of resources in terms of oil, which they sell abroad. And this brings in more money. The regions that are poor and suffer insecurity is not as a result of poverty. It's as a result of imbalanced development, lack of distribution of resources to other parts of the country. Okay? So my fellow debaters are all going on to support this motion. Be keen to know that in Nigeria, as you have told the audience, is not poor and cannot be categorized under the poorest nations. It is categorized under the insecure countries because we have the existence of terrorism groups in that particular state, as depicted by our first speaker. Next, I want to look at corruption as a cause to corruption. To situate my example from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is not a poor country. Zimbabwe has people who are corrupt. And following the evidence that was given by one of the journalists in that particular state in 2008, following the country's presidential election in 2008 between Robert Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai, the Zimbabwe Project reported a 15% increase in human rights violations that were directly linked to new push for polls in 2012 and 2 years earlier. How is that related to poverty? Think of it.
Thank you very much. The proposition have been asked that they stated that one of the perpetrators of the Garissa attack was a lawyer, a graduate of the University of Nairobi. So was he poor? And if so, was that a cause of his terrorist act? And the opposition have been asked to clarify, how does terrorism lead to poverty? We'll have them respond. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Flavian Simiti from Archbishop Njenga Girls. I want to answer the question of my fellow brother. He's saying that the lawyer was the one who perpetrated the Garissa attack. Maybe he used the poor people to perpetrate this attack. And the one who wears the shoe is the one who feels the pinch. the poor are willing to commit heinous crimes to get the basics of life. Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, try to put yourself in this poor man's shoe. Then you have a child, severely malnourished, is dying of hunger. Wouldn't you do everything and anything to at least get food for this child? Would it at least you would want to fulfill the parental obligations towards this child? Now this desperation is what causes the poor to join these militia groups. Al-Shabaab, based in Somalia, and Boko Haram, based in Nigeria. www.vanguard.com states that the militia groups target the poor because they are more susceptible. They are more susceptible into joining these militia groups. They are desperate. They want to fill the stomach of this child who is suffering from hunger, who is dying of hunger. They use the poor to carry out kidnappings. They cause mass killings. They cause terror attack. And this is insecurity. As long as we are poor, we will continue to live in fear of insecurity. George Bernard says that the moment we want to believe something, we suddenly see all the arguments for it and become to the argument against it. Food for thought.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, you have 3 minutes to respond.
To answer your question, and I'll start by countering on the first question. One of my great debaters just asked me to elaborate how terrorism causes insecurity. I'll say this. Terrorism, as you can look in Nigeria, the case in Nigeria, terrorism is among the leading causes of insecurity, and poverty is none. It's not even visible in the top 5 causes of insecurity in Nigeria. These groups that have arisen in various parts of Africa, they are not there because they lack money or any other resources as basing on what poverty is. But the main cause is to continue their religion. As you can see, the Al-Shabaab, we can validate this in the Westgate case. In the Westgate case, in the media, it was all over the media, and those who watch it can attest to this. It was all over the media that when these Al-Shabaab cartels, they were killing people. They were isolating the Christians and the Islams. They took the Islams aside and the Christians aside. And they told, if you know you are a Muslim, or even you want to join these Muslims, you can come. So this is not based on poverty, but it was based on religion, basically on religion. I would urge my proposers to validate which militia group did these poor people go as a result of lack of money. Border conflict has led to insecurity. You can attest to this when you have heard about the case of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Eritrea broke free from the arms of Ethiopia 30 years ago. But still in 10 years, Ethiopia has his troops in Eritrea. And this has led to the rebellion of the people. So these Ethiopian troops use the border to go there. This is because of porous borders. They go there and counter the people. Okay, the incident about when the genocide in Rwanda. The genocide in Rwanda led to the Rwandese to flee from their country to DRC, which caused insecurity to the immediate residents of the borders. They really felt insecure. My other point is about bad governance. Bad governance is really a cause of corruption, and the leading one for that matter. So let's not base on poverty as the leading cause of corruption. Let's look at this matter with an intense scrutiny. Thank you.
Ladies, your final submission now. You have 1 minute.
I love this inspiring speech from one of my favorite ladies. Her name, Sonia Carson. She says, and I quote, "Don't worry about everybody else. The whole world is full of everybody else, you know? But only a few make a significant achievement." So, my opponents say that poverty is not the leading cause of insecurity in Africa. Agreed. But first, do you know what anxiety and desire can cause? Okay. Terrorism. You elaborated on the Hutu and Tutsi. And in that, from the AE networks, we get that 800,000 people lost their lives. And that happened in the period of April to July. That's 4 months. 4 months, 800,000 people. So, do the math. If poverty isn't the leading cause of insecurity, what if a thirsty man dies? How long will it take to reduce that population? Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you also have 1 minute.
I'm here again to counter on some of the issues raised by the proposers. Look at some of the insecure countries in Africa, the top 10. Let's start. The first most insecure country, we have Somalia, Sudan, DRC, the Central African Republic, Libya, Nigeria, Chad, Zimbabwe, Burundi, and Ethiopia. As you can see, these are the most insecure countries, but you cannot find Somali in the 10 of the poorest countries in Africa. Somali is not included. So what this argument, I don't know what factors they are basing on, but truly it's not to be considered when we want to curb insecurity. When you see these factors like poverty truly is only but it's a cause, but only holds a little percentage of the cause of insecurity in Africa. Thank you.
For both teams, poverty is an ailing issue, particularly in our content. You didn't delve much into the issue to give us illustrations and tangible facts to connect to what you were saying. However, Patience, you had a good start, good language, but you are off the motion a little bit. Nixon, you defined the terms. You were very clear. I loved the points you gave, the example you gave, though they were not enough. Stellar, convincing, confident, articulate. Franklin, at one point you were unpointed and your rebuttal was not so clear. You need to work on your presentation skills and coherence of your argument. Flavian, you strained to respond to the question, but that was a good fight. Thank you.
Gentlemen, Nambale boys, the judges awarded you 67%. Please give them a round of applause. Archbishop Njenga girls, the judges awarded you 68%, making you our winners for the day.
So congratulations to the two teams on stage. We'd also like to thank you, our studio audience, and our viewers back home. Keep watching and keep the conversation going. Hashtag GDC for SDGs. And I've been your host, Austin Nyombok.
I am Mariam Bishar. We'll see you next time.
Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze by Safaricom, the Youth Network.